Hi, and welcome everybody to our webinar this evening. I have Dr. Maria Sampalis on with us. We are planning an insightful conversation on navigating optometry, corporate optometry, sublease practices, and new technologies. Dr. Sampalis, do you mind giving a brief introduction to yourself and your experience in optometry?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the panelist. It's an honor to be here tonight and just talk about my journey in optometry and my insights on optometry. So I graduated from NECO in 2007, and over the last 10 years started, this network called Corporate Optometry, and it's grown to about 67,000 eye care professionals between Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And obviously, that's the theme, but there's private practitioners, there's opticians, students. So it's grown. There's doctors that have started here and moved on. And I have two subleases with Warby Parker and a private practice as well. Done a lot in industry, some consulting, writing articles, speaking. So it's been a fun journey to be able to explore these different avenues of optometry. It's been very fulfilling for me to, try these different things, and instead of just being bored, just seeing patients in the exam room.
That's so fun. Tell us a little bit more about how long you've been practicing. What started first? Did you start with the private practice and move into the sublease? Tell us a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, so when I came out of school, I was one of the few ODs that just wanted to have their own practice, start right away, but that's just not how it works. So at first I worked with a pediatric ophthalmologist, and then I worked part-time there. And then I also worked part-time at like Pearl Vision and worked and then fill-in positions as well, just to kind of see what it's like out there, different things. So over the years, I've done a lot of those things, but the goal was to have my own practice. Like, I really like being my own boss. I like being freedom. It's just kind of come and go as I please, what I want with my schedule and with my family. And back about almost 10 years ago, I had an opportunity because I was out maybe for about 8 years and just working for someone else, different practices. I worked for ophthalmology. I worked in the health setting, or private practice, worked for some corporate practices as an employee, and really knew that I wanted to have my own practice, and had asked, put offers in to buy practice, just that never happened, and an opportunity came at that point to take on a Sears Optical sublease, and towards the end before it closed, and I took it on because the goal was to always have my own practice. So I said, this is an opportunity. Maybe nobody else wants it, but I saw an opportunity to learn and get seeing what it would be like to have my own practice in this setting. And it was really no cost. It was turnkey at that point. So I was pregnant at the time. So I said, let me try this. And this is what I always wanted, and we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then, I have at the end of this, I have 2 kids. I can always walk away and go back to, another job. But I loved it. I really found great joy in working for myself. And, you work a lot harder, but I like that, and try to challenge myself to, find, solve problems in the practice, to grow the practice, find innovative ways. Mm-hmm. And after, and then did that. That's how, the corporate optometry Facebook group started, was there because it was slow. And I was like, what other ways can I do to value my time while I'm here, where I'm working? And then, when I go home, shut it off, because I had 2 young kids. Yep. At that point. Now they're 10 and 12. And from there, it's just how, it closed. Then after 5 years, they closed it. There was no opportunity to own another sublease at that point. The opportunity was to be employed for somewhere else, but I was adamant that I was not going to be employed. I always make the joke that I'm not employable. So, so I, at that point, there was the next opportunity was, do I want to have my own business? Do I have the guts? Was I scared? Yeah. I started a cold practice. I gave me 3 weeks notice to move out of that sublease there. So I did. I opened a private practice, and under $30,000 at that point, opened a new business. Patients followed. And then, I did some part-time fill in other places too, because it was a small lease, but I did do it. And for me, it was at that point was to take the risk, to do it, because again, I was young and, I had support to do it. And then fast forward now, doctor, the next step was I was there and doctor was looking to sell his practice during COVID, and it was an opportunity. I took it again, scared COVID, took the risk, and looking back, it was, one of the best things I've ever done. So a lot of opportunities out there if people can see through the obstacles.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about corporate optometry and how you got started and why you started the group?
Yeah, so that happened when I was in the sublease. So it wasn't as busy, and I was there, and the idea came up where I had questions. I didn't know these things, and I was getting information from a store manager, regional manager, but it seemed like the information was one-sided, right? And talking to certain doctors, but a lot of doctors were very busy, and you try to talk to different doctors within this setting, seers, let's say, to get information, and there was only so much information out there. So I had started that group from scratch, and it's grown to about 31,000 members, and it provides a lot of education to doctors in the setting, navigating different things. And there's a bunch of questions that have come up over the years. So I created a website with articles and information and data that doctors can go and find, and either start a sublease or ask questions about the right salary and things like that. And there wasn't any information in the past on this, and now there's such a lot of information, and the information is doctor to doctor. And I've been able to connect doctors throughout the country to be able to help them whatever their situation is.
Could you say a little bit more about, that sounds great and it's grown so much, but why do you continue to serve the community? How does that tie back to, how we started the conversation? And your personal mission? I'd love to hear a little bit more on the why.
Yeah, the why more I advocate for doctors in this setting. It seemed like there wasn't any advocacy towards this, and it's been about 10 years now. And now companies will pay attention to this sector of the industry, where there was some misconceptions in the past. I always say, the four walls that I practice don't define me as the doctor. And it's a great starting point from some doctors, I think, now with high student loans and things like that. And I've learned a lot too from business and that, and I still continue to learn with my sublease as well on why patients will come there and maybe not another, but and new things. It keeps you innovative and on top. But the group started really because there were a lot of pain points I had, but also to advocate for the doctors and have a voice for the doctors in the group. Recently we just, there was a pushback from doctors at National Vision from switch from salary to hourly. And, I'm very proud that the group has had a voice, and they have retracted. So that has been one of the best, honest thing for me, and that these doctors trust me with information to be able to pull forward. So it's been a great honor.
No, that's awesome. Can you explain a little bit more about subleased optometry practices for people who might not be familiar, and in particular, the difference between subleased and employed optometrists? What does that mean in terms of decision-making authority, scope of practice? What are the pros and cons of each arrangement?
Yeah, so sublease is a doctor that will rent space from the optical, and they will have the exam lane. They have their own business. They pay rent to the corporation for that space and the patients that they see. It usually has a visual field, and some of them have retinal cameras now, depending on the brand, exam lane, EMR, electronic and patient communication, things like that. And you just go in and see patients. A lot of them, you have credit cards. So it's really just turnkey. You just go right in. And the employee doctors are employed by the corporation. They just go in, they see the patients. That's their thing. Where the other sublease, you build your own business. That was more attractive to me. Authority, doctors in this setting practice the way they want, their full scope, and how they want to practice. The sublease owners, I think, have more, way to want to build their business. So they'll do more medical model instead of, trying to, balance managed care because they don't sell glasses in that setting.
Yep.
But a lot of practices have done very well, having specialty care in these settings as well. There's one doctor at Walmart that had a myopia management clinic. Others have dry eye clinics.
Yep.
I've done very well over the years with just medical model optometry.
That's awesome. I know you provide career support for a lot of doctors, and it's certainly a journey. So, for somebody who's just starting out, which would you recommend? Or maybe somebody who's a little bit more seasoned, how do you guide doctors in decision making with, so many options of where to work? What's your advice there?
Sure. So I've been very fortunate. A lot of doctors will contact me and I'll talk to them on the phone and they'll ask for my advice, which I think is flattering, honestly. I'll tell you that, where they trust you to think. So, I just say, like, tell me what you want, what you're looking for, and then I can, help you and what you want. So some of them are looking for the highest salary. Some are looking for work-life balance. Some are just looking for a place that, they can work part-time or some just want leadership. Where can they grow? And some of them want, to have their own business and have multiple subleases. It's just different in what you want. And I'm never going to tell one person because, it's my, something is fact. Sometimes it's my opinion and what I think to guide. But you don't know. But, I've been very fortunate to over the years to help a lot of ODs with that and help, get a thank you after the fact where they made a decision or something they didn't think about, or to look at. Let's say like restricted covenant comes up in employee contracts.
Yep.
There's some that are much larger than others. And I kind of know that information because I talk to different doctors, right? So I'll be like, well, I heard that they've taken this down. So just try to negotiate that and it works.
Yep.
And we're just trying to help just, how they're going to grow a business starting from scratch, or if they're starting a business, maybe it's not a 5-day-a-week operation. Maybe that's what a corporation wants. I said, start with 3 and see what you can do. So I've been, very happy to help these doctors and give them, some leverage.
That's awesome. Shifting gears a little bit, how do you think embracing new technology fits in with vision care and modern optometry?
Yeah, technology is the way of the future. It's the way to grow your practice. There's a wow factor. There's a lot of things that come out of our patients. There's a lot of things that bombard them every day for information, and they can get a lot of information at their fingertips. So we as the doctors need to make sure we let these patients know that we are the number one source for education or for their eyes, but also technology to impress them, right? I think that's important for impression, but education and patient retention. So if the patients are, wow, they know you're up to date with technology, you have data on them. I remember just being at Sears, patients like, well, you have my retinal photo. And that's why I keep coming back. There's a basic retinal photo, right? But it's also ways for you to grow your practice and be efficient. And with time and managed care and things like that, the efficiency is super important. And for each patient that you see and then, your time, it depends, how many days, how many hours you want to be there. For me, I'd much rather see a lot of patients efficiently in a shorter period of time. And then instead of working, 9 to 5, if I can get out a little early or come a little late, I'd much rather do that.
Yeah, no, you brought up something really interesting that it helps with patient education. I'd love to dive into that just for a minute. Could you be a little bit more specific on how that helps, or if not, how it helps, maybe a challenge you've experienced in patient education?
Yeah, I think a lot of patients just want something that is easy to understand. And I think visuals are important.
Yes.
Even just explaining cataract, right? That's important. But retinal photography is good. OCT is good. Visual fields to show like loss has been educational for glaucoma and things like that. And again, if the patient understands why you're prescribing or doing something or the importance of the test, I think that's good. I've had patients that say, hey, I just get my eye exam at 1-800 contacts. It's frustrating, as a practitioner, for the level of care that you're providing and what you're doing in your practice, for some of these, patients to think that's an eye exam. But education is very important because that's also against patient retention and trust in your practice, and you're building relationships. So this continuation of care, I think, is very important. And I think one of those things is technology and education.
That's awesome. I appreciate that insight very much. Attendees, I'd love to open it up to questions at this point. If you have any questions for Maria or myself, you can put them in the Q&A and we will respond.
Oh, where's one question?
Here's a question on what advice do you have for optometrists who are considering a career in corporate optometry, especially those who are just starting out?
Yeah. Again, in employed model, see what the terms are. I just wrote an article on this, just posted in the Facebook group. It was red flags, and just make sure that you understand the terms, what the penalties are if you leave early. If there's a restricted covenant, you never want to put yourself in a restricted covenant more than 3 miles, right? There was one that I think was 10 miles. And then that kind of limits you after the fact of what you want, what you're looking to do. So restricted covenant's important. Make sure if you're a sublease doctor, if you don't have certain coverage, there's no penalties with fees. Those are big things. And I think if we, chat on the phone, then I could help guide you as well. I've done a lot of those with doctors for contracts. Otherwise, it's just finding a setting that you want to work in, and each brand has to offer. I think now in this type of environment, it's easier to negotiate than ever.
Great. Thank you for that. Other questions? What are some promising new technologies that help with efficiency? You did talk a bit about efficiency and increasing patient throughput. Would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah. So efficiency, I really start with the building with the team and having the staff understand why we're doing certain things, and if I'm busy, for them to start certain tests. But it really starts with the staff education, and then it's pre-test, right? So I've got an Eyecare tonometer. That's been easy for my staff to use. Something like this virtual field. If you have another field there, but you have someone that might not be able to leave another room, if there's space issues, that's been very easy to use. It's that's efficient. Retinal photography, we do auto refraction, and then the techs know if it's VA, and then sometimes if we have to work backwards, the techs just know and understand what needs to be done. And I'll tell you, I have 2 exam rooms, and I'll go between the 2. And if I have to pre-test sometimes, and the techs in the other room would just do that to get that done. And that when one patient's dilating, I'll go into the other room and vice versa. So, but I also have the tech with me to scribe, and that's been important. And that's important for the handoff as well, as you make your recommendations, for follow-up care, for medical care, or even, transferring that patient to the optical as you make recommendations after you've done your medical exam.
Thank you. I think we have time. Oh, we actually have 2 more questions. Let's try to fit them in because I'd love to answer both. They're both really great. The first is, what skills or knowledge areas do you believe will be particularly valuable for optometrists in the coming years? Yeah,
so this is a great question. So I just came back from Vision Expo West. What a great conference. And then what a lot of great stuff coming out in our industry. I think we were held back by COVID a little bit with all this new innovation. Presbyopia drops, right? New thing. And it's going to be an additive to your practice, and a lot more of those coming out in the pipeline. Headsets like this, it's been a game changer in your practice, right? It's a wow factor. And OCT, AI, telemedicine, doctors see telemedicine as a threat in AI, but it's an addition to your practice that you can make efficient, right? And those follow-up visits on myopia management, dry eye contact lenses, you can do that via telemedicine and not have it at the front desk, the patient, or jam up the waiting room. So those are all things, and learning to utilize those things to make profit in your practice as well. And then myopia management, contact lenses. Even just, people that don't want to take that time to learn, let's say Ortho K or specialty contact, the MySight is just easy. I found that it was an easy way to incorporate myopia management in my practice, just starting out. That has been great. And then just medical optometry. I think we're in a great time now where AOA is advocating for us, and we're seeing a lot of scope. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in that. And just like, even also, I'm looking to get an IPL. I mean, IPL, OptiLight in the practice for dry eye has been a great addition to the practice. So, but you got to find what you want, what you're passionate about. I like the dry eye aspect of patient care. Am I as contact lens specialist? No, I've tried that. I have to find, but it's so much information out there. There's so much. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for optometry. I just, you have to kind of innovate and stay up to date with education and what's there. Cause I went to the conference AOA, and I'm sitting next to new grads, and they're educated on lasers. And I said, I wish we can get lasers in Rhode Island, but more than I do. What can I learn? So I think it's that learning thing as well. And there's a lot of opportunity out there. I'm pretty excited, and and it's, practice ownership has always been my thing and what I wanted to do. And I've took different paths. But it just depends on what makes you happy. I mean, I talk to some doctors, and they just want to work 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and go home and do whatever they want to do. And that's what makes them happy, and that's fine. So whatever your passion is.
Awesome. Last question. What is your best piece of advice for women in optometry?
Best piece of advice for women in optometry. Just go do what you want to do, and it doesn't matter. So I went to Vision Expo West, talked to some females. We had some dinner, and they're young females. And they said, well, I don't know if I can do this with having I said, hey, I did it, and I don't know how I did it. I'm not going to say you just figure it out. You just do it. And you can have what you want. You can have a family, be successful, and balance it. Sometimes it's better than others. There's been weeks that it's not good to balance it over the years, but you just get it done. And I think there's a lot of female empowerment and a lot of female leadership now and mentorship now than there's ever been. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for females in our industry to accomplish whatever they're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What final thoughts do you have to share with our audience tonight?
I just want to thank everyone who came and listened, and for the questions. It's great. And again, if anyone wants to message me on LinkedIn or Facebook, I'm happy to always chat and give my insight on the industry or chat, and happy to connect with anyone.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everybody for attending. We will see you soon. Bye.